Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first weekly briefing from Nexus Tech. And wow, what a week to kick things off. The entire Linux ecosystem is absolutely buzzing, and it really feels like we're watching a massive shift happen in real time. From the servers that run our world to the Steam Deck in your hands, the whole landscape is changing, and it is happening fast.
So let's start with this number, 3%. Now, at first glance, you might think, oh, what's the big deal? But this is huge. For the first time ever, Linux has officially smashed through a major psychological barrier in the PC gaming world. We're going to unpack exactly why this is so important in just a minute. But first, there's this number, an absolutely incredible 90%. That's the percentage of all Windows games that are now playable on Linux. I mean, how is that even possible? What's the engine driving this kind of unprecedented growth? And maybe more importantly, what new challenges pop up when you're suddenly in the spotlight? So today, we're going to follow the thread that connects all of these dots. We'll start in the high-stakes world of enterprise servers, see how that rock-solid foundation is fueling a true renaissance on the desktop. Then we'll dive deep into the gaming revolution it's all making possible. And finally, we'll take a look at what's on the road ahead. All right, let's kick things off in the world of big business, where stability isn't just a feature, it's everything. And this week, SUSE made a completely groundbreaking move that redefines what long-term support even means. Okay, let's get into this because SUSE Linux Enterprise Server 16 is a monster. We are talking about a 16-year support lifecycle. 16 years. For industries running critical infrastructure or embedded systems where you can't just swap out hardware, that is a game-changing promise of stability. But it's not just that. What's really key here is that it's the first enterprise distro with fully reproducible builds. This means anyone can cryptographically verify that the code they're running is exactly what the developers intended, a massive win for security in an age of supply chain attacks. But this right here is the crucial question, isn't it? When a platform becomes this important, this foundational to how the world works, it also gets a much, much bigger target painted on its back. So what happens when new dangers come out of the woodwork? And this is exactly the kind of threat we're talking about. A critical flaw, one that's actively being used by ransomware groups, was just added to CISA's Must Patch Now list. It's a use after free bug, which is a really nasty type of memory error. Think of it like this. The system throws away a piece of data, but forgets to tear up the map leading to where it was. An attacker can then find that old map and use it to build their own malicious code right in that empty spot. So here's a quick breakdown of how this goes down. First, an attacker tricks the kernel into freeing up some memory, but leaving that little map, that dangling pointer, behind. Then, they use that pointer to sneak their own code in. And finally, because this is all happening deep inside the kernel, when that code gets executed, the attacker gets full root access. Game over. They have complete control of the entire system. So while the kernel developers are fighting these incredibly important battles, that very same kernel is powering what I can only call a golden age of innovation and choice on the desktop. Seriously, it has been a wild few months for new releases. And you can see this amazing variety on full display right here. You've got Debian 13 Trixie, the absolute definition of rock-solid stability, perfect for servers and developers who just need it to work. Then you've got Fedora 42, which is all about being on the bleeding edge, shipping the latest and greatest tech. And of course, Ubuntu 25.04, which continues to focus on that polished, out-of-the-box experience for newcomers. 3 totally different philosophies, all pushing Linux forward. And of course, powering these experiences are the desktop environments, and they are evolving faster than ever. In projects like GNOME, we're seeing this huge push towards better performance, more secure graphics with tech like Wayland, and critical features like variable refresh rate, which is a huge deal for getting that buttery smooth, tear-free gaming experience. And then on the other side of the desktop world, it's the same story, a relentless focus on improving the user's life. Projects like KD Plasma are just doubling down on deep customization and all these thoughtful quality-of-life features. It's all the little things, smarter search, visual tweaks, that just make the entire system feel more cohesive and, well, more yours. Which brings us right back to where we started, the gaming revolution. That 3% and that 90%, that was not a fluke. No way. They are the direct results of years of hard work by thousands of people and a fundamental shift in the entire PC gaming landscape. Now, I know what you're thinking. You look at this chart, and 3% seems like a tiny slice of the pie. But the number itself isn't the real story here. The trend is the story. This isn't some random one-month spike. It's the result of steady, sustained growth, driven almost single-handedly by the wild success of Valve's Steam Deck.
And this success isn't magic. It is built on an absolutely incredible stack of open-source technology. Think of Wine and Proton as these universal translators for games. Then, projects like DXVK translate the graphics calls on the fly. And the community-driven Mesa drivers for AMD GPUs mean that Linux performance is not just catching up to Windows. In many cases, it's now better.
But there is one final major hurdle: kernel-level anti-cheat. Now, the technology exists to make it work on Linux. The issue is that the game developers themselves have to choose to enable it. And this creates this clear divide. Games like Helldivers 2 work flawlessly because the devs just flip the switch, while huge titles like Call of Duty and Fortnite are still unplayable simply because of company policy. So, after a week of massive enterprise promises, critical security alerts, desktop innovation, and huge gaming milestones, where in the world do we go from here? Well, the simple answer is forward. The pace never stops. The merge window for the next big kernel release, 6.18, has already closed. We're on track for a stable release in the next month or two, and this could very well become the next long-term support kernel that will power devices for years and years to come. And that's really the key takeaway from this week. Linux isn't some niche hobbyist project anymore. It's maturing into a mainstream force on every single front. Servers, desktops, handhelds, you name it. This brings incredible new opportunities, but as we saw with that kernel bug, it also brings some very serious new challenges. This really does feel like a pivotal moment for the entire ecosystem, and things are moving faster than ever. Believe me, you are not going to want to miss what happens next. So to make sure you stay in the loop, be sure to subscribe to Nexus Tech. We'll have your essential weekly briefing right here every week. Which leaves us with one last question to chew on until next time. As Linux keeps growing, what's going to be the bigger challenge ahead? The technical fight against sophisticated kernel attacks, or the political battle to win over developers in the ongoing anti-cheat war? We'll be here to cover it all. Thanks for watching.